Welcome to Breakthrough Consciousness,
the podcast where we get out of the loop and into it all.
My name is Sean.
And I'm Clayton.
We've got another kick-ass episode for you all today. We're going to be diving into the topic of self-love.
It was definitely an episode that we came together for, and just, blam, I had no idea where the topic and conversation would take us, but we opened up a lot of doors, and we're excited to share it with you guys for sure.
This one was different for us because actually you decided the topic, and I didn't know what we were going to do until we sat down and started having the conversation. So that was kind of fun. I actually really liked that style.
Added that a bit of immediacy and spur-of-the-moment magic to it.
Spontaneity, for sure.
Spontaneity, that's exactly what I just said, but in one word. Wow.
Okay, so it's been a few weeks since we actually recorded the episode, and here we are doing the intro.
It's been a couple weeks since we've actually been able to spend time together. Both been pretty busy. I've been dealing with some huge life shifts and whatnot. I'm not with my previous partner anymore. We separated our lives and stuff. So honestly, this episode is going to be one that I'm going to have to listen to a couple times this week, I'm sure, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good one. It's definitely one of my favorites so far. We get into some pretty personal stuff, some personal stories, just talking about our growth and journey towards self-love, which I kind of feel like that's what it's all about.
100%, because can't share anything with anyone else we don't already have for ourselves. That's
exactly
damn straight. How's it been for you, though, man? What's been going on?
It's good. Just working on music and getting ready to go out to Hocking Hills actually this weekend. So I'm recording an album for a friend and her band for a 3-day session out in Hocking Hills. Kara's coming with me, so she's going to do a little bit of a solo retreat out in the woods while we're making some musical magic.
Sounds amazing. Just recording in the woods in general.
I know. It's going to be really, really unique. It's the piano player's home, so he lives out in Logan.
Okay.
So speaking of spontaneity, I just have to figure it out when I get there as far as the acoustics of the space and how everything's going to situate, but that's exciting. That's how it is for remote on location recording. So
bringing all your gear up, making everyone comfortable and situated to record. Are you going to be able to fit all your gear and everything into one car?
Yeah, actually, I am borrowing my dad's van. Thankfully.
Nice.
Graciously.
Are you letting him borrow your car while
we're just going to swap, so he's not stranded.
Perfect.
From work or anything, having to walk to work or something.
Right.
So I'm going to get all the baffles in there, and since Kara's coming, we'll have vacation bags,
hiking
and
gear
such.
and such. Adventure gear for sure.
Right.
Nice.
But yeah, man, just been working on the album as well. I'm actually getting ready to release my first 2 singles, my debut Shanti Era singles, so I'm excited about that.
Very nice.
Actually, everyone just heard the B-side track 2 intro in this episode, so that's the beginning of the second song there. So I'm super excited about that, man. I had the goal to have the whole album done this summer, done and released, which looking back, I'm realizing that was, again, a too rigid of a expectation. Yeah.
You can't force creation.
No, you can't. You can force yourself to sit down and do the things because, self-producing it, there's the writing process, which you can't force, but again, you can create the infrastructure to allow that to flow and to actually put your time and dedication to doing that.
I forget that you're also doing all of the editing. I don't know all the
the whole production,
all that stuff too. So you're not just recording, making the music. You're fine-tuning.
Exactly.
Yeah, truth.
And so that's the part that's labor, and it just takes actually having to do it, and it's just too easy for me to put my own stuff on the back burner. You know what I mean?
Truth.
Of course I have to put financial projects first, things that I'm actually getting income from.
Yeah. We do need to make money to survive in this society, for sure.
Yeah, which is not to say that I need to do that, but it's been a tendency to do that, so.
Just take the Wook road. No money necessary. Me and my road dog Billy, we're gonna make it.
Well, when I evolve to that level, we'll do that.
Yeah, dude, I think you're doing great.
But yeah, so I'm excited about all that. This episode and those singles will probably be coming out more or less the same time. So once it's officially out, definitely put the links in the and the episode descriptions, show notes, and all that. So
gonna saturate your mind with some love.
Yeah, man. But yeah, anything you want to share about the last couple weeks?
Yeah, to touch on that topic of spontaneity for a second, my buddy Matthew, who had Sacred Vibration Festival that I helped throw up in Michigan.
Yeah.
It's going to be first weekend of September this year.
Okay.
But he was like, yo, can you make it up to around Detroit August 9th? I'm like, sure. I just assume, I shouldn't do that. But I was like, yeah, sure, probably. A Sacred Vibes meeting. We're going to figure out what's going down, make some moves happen. And I scroll on Facebook. I see my buddy Ashton post like, oh my gosh, I'm playing a show in Michigan. First time back since I moved to Colorado on August 9th. And I'm like, dots connecting, neurons firing. I'm like, hold on, is this happening? Because he's one of my favorite producers.
Yeah.
And
nice.
So I messaged Matt again. And I'm like, what's going on? Are we going to a show? You're throwing a show that night? Is that what's going on? He was like, that's exactly what's going on. We're going to go have fun at this show. And then do you want to help me throw 2 festivals this weekend? So it's like a
cool
Happy Giggle Forest or something like that. I forget exactly. Something Giggle Forest, and then a bluegrass festival we're like loaning a tent to and building a stage for one of them. And
oh wow, so 2 in addition to Sacred Vibrations.
Yeah, but we're doing that not this coming weekend, but the next weekend. We're gonna work both events in the same weekend. So we're gonna set up a tent at one, go get the stage and the art set up for the other one, and then I guess dance around, have fun, make sure everything runs smoothly between the 2.
Wow. Cool, man. Congrats. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's like, a lot of heartache, a lot of crazy things going on. Life's a big shift with the breakup and whatnot, but all of these opportunities are occurring at the same time. So it's like the most bittersweet, beautiful thing,
Yeah, that's life.
Damn straight. I spent like 30 minutes crying in my friend's arms the other night, just random as hell. And he's like, I'm not really good at this, but I'm here for you and I love you. I was drinking. Yeah. And, partook in a little herb after that, came back to earth with a little lucidity and just geeked out. I looked back at myself. I was like, hey, you cried. You cried a lot. But it felt so good.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to be able to share those experiences with close friends.
For sure.
Even if they're not close friends, they're about to be.
No doubt, or not at all. Like, it really will.
This is your test.
This is the test. But no, we were already great friends, and he was just
awesome.
loving on me, hugging me, like, it's okay, it's okay. Man. I'm not good at this. I'm like, you're doing really good, thank you.
That's awesome. Honestly, dude, I mean, I've been thinking about it, and like, part of me has been wanting to reach out, And I mean, I did a little bit the first week and stuff, but I knew that you were taking care of yourself and that you were being with people that were taking care of you. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm doing the best thing I can for myself. I mean, I have a couple friends that were in a relationship, and it wasn't the best relationship between them. There was definitely some like level of even like physical abuse and stuff going on. So we're all in a group chat together, and I called one of them out, and they get really upset. I have a super long text to read from them and reply to, them being very angry with me for saying what I said because it caused their lover to break up with them. And which was like, I did it out of place of love for my buddy who's getting hurt, and being like, I literally just read this thing and I was like, oh, that's super relatable. Should I stir the pot? I guess so. I mean, I'm always prepared to lick the spoon, but there's definitely been a whole lot of stuff going on. My mom and her boyfriend just split up.
Oh, really?
My friend just split up. Just a lot of people, a few other people as well. It's just really strange waters right now, for sure. I know that Steven just got with a beautiful lady, which is awesome. Destiny, they're really cool together, I think.
Cool, man.
And if they don't make it forever, this is forever on the airwaves. You were cool together, and you will be, but hopefully you do make it. I think that'd be tight.
I mean, it just begs the question now that you bring that up, this like whole discussion of like making it with friends or, relationships that are romantic or whatever. Like, there's such this expectation that things need to last forever to be beautiful, to be true.
Truth.
Like, sometimes people come into our lives and then they go, and we learned our lessons or built something together, or like whatever we did, whatever the connection was purposed for.
There's always lessons there, blessings, fun times. Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't want to take all the amazing times I had with my partner and erase them because of some heartache. No, not at all. Like, I'd do it all over again for sure. There's no doubt about that.
And it's in the past, so it's like whether you want to hold on to it or not, it's not here in this moment, right?
Love
here, right
and let
now.
go.
Exactly.
Love yourself, man. Like,
right, which really does tie in with self-love, you know. So.
And that's the point I've been plunged into entirely. It's like, you know what? The last few months in that relationship, I wasn't getting up and doing my yoga, taking care of myself. I was kind of like not the happiest. And now that it's all gotten shaken up, I get up in the morning, I stretch it out, I make myself food, walk to the grocery store.
Right on, man.
So, I don't know, motivation in the strangest of ways, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're recording this the day after or the day of, depending on your perspective, of the new moon.
Yes,
it's
the super
black moon or something?
new moon. Yeah, because it's the second new moon of the month.
Oh, is that what that means?
Yeah,
okay.
So like a blue moon would be the second full moon of the month,
gotcha.
And the black moon is the second new moon.
I see.
Yeah,
okay.
I just learned that last night. I was doing some research on it and whatnot.
That's cool though. I mean, I've been getting into the moon cycle and the energy of the moon cycle.
Nice.
You know, the new moons are being a good auspicious time for planting seeds.
Of self-love and self-care and treating ourselves.
Absolutely.
I did my laundry till 5 a.m.
Talk about self-love.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I loved it, but I love myself so much more for it. Yep.
Good stuff. Cool. Well, let's get to the episode, shall we?
Let's do it. I guess a good place to start with talking about self-acceptance and self-love is talking about where it actually comes into play. And I know we've talked about some of our distractions a little bit. I actually had a whole episode where we purely talked about our distractions and got a little bit distracted as well.
Distractions from living in the present moment.
Yes, exactly. More
presence.
Specifically.
Yeah.
And it's when we experience these things that do drag us away from the present moment and actually experiencing life in its fullness is when our acceptance will come into play. When it's like, oh my gosh, my mind's beating me up, or my body's hurting, or, you know, what's going on outside of me isn't favorable to my expectations for the situation. You know, it's really when we have to take a deep breath and accept and allow for 99% of the time what we have created to be, and not be judged and resisted and put all this energy towards that, because what we resist will persist. And that's one of my favorite phrases, because it seems to strike so true most of the time, that the more we struggle against thoughts or feelings or situations in our life, and without just accepting it for what it is in that moment, I'm not saying give up for something that's bad, but it's just accepting it for what it is allows it to be, and us to see it more clearly.
It allows the energy to dissipate, because oftentimes it's something negative that we're resisting, of course, you know, and that approaching that negativity with more negativity, resistance, that literally feeds the negativity. So it's just that negative feedback
this constant pong game of tossing an old bag of trash back and forth. No one wants to play it, you know. Got to take a positive action and, you know, actually put that bag in the garbage, or
even a neutral action, just to, like you said, accept it, just let it be, keep going. That dissipates that negative energy, because if you're not resisting it, it has nothing to feed off of, and it'll just naturally dissipate.
Truly. And then a lot of times it'll come into play in our own heads. I'm sure you've experienced that before, where someone really like rubbed us the wrong way, rubbed you the wrong way, or I know it's happened to me. And I let it go, but then 5 minutes later down the road, whether I'm walking on a jog or whatever, they're like, man, that guy was really mean.
Yeah.
What the heck? And what did I do to deserve that? Man, I wish I would have said something. And then,
what's he going through where he's putting off that kind of stank, you know?
I mean, that's like a definitely more evolved way of looking at it, like actually seeing like, oh, well, he must be going through something. What's he going through? Whereas I feel like it's very common to experience like, oh, why is he like that? I wish I could change that, you know? Well, we still haven't accepted that situation or given ourselves the love to allow ourselves to accept that, you know?
that's where a lot of the frustration comes in for me. Like, of course, if someone does you wrong, the first blow is like, oh, why? But then I'll start ruminating on it like you're speaking of, and what I get frustrated is why is there so much suffering?
Literally.
Why are they going through a situation where there's such a, butthead? And that's the frustration for me, because I can't just magically make it better. But then I'm resisting the natural flow of life. Life is suffering.
It can be, that's for sure.
It's the game. It has to be. I mean, even
it's where so much of the growth comes from.
Right. I mean, even from a non-human perspective, think about seeds turning into trees. They have to struggle and suffer through the process of sprouting. From a seed, they have to push through all that dirt and muck towards the light to
just
break
even
through
have an opportunity to get sunlight.
Exactly, to break through to that sunspot. Yeah. I mean, of course, I don't know what the life of plants is like, if they would necessarily consider it suffering. But my point,
life is challenging. It's not
a
cakewalk necessarily. I've never experienced a cakewalk. So I don't necessarily... Sorry,
yeah, where are all these cakewalks happening?
Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
Is it really that easy? I'm not sure. I digress. But really...
Back to that later.
Yeah. It's loving ourselves enough to accept what we're experiencing, because we know internally in ourselves, in our heart space, that, well, this is what is. If I'm going to fight it, I'm going against what is, and that's going against my own self, realizing our own interconnectedness and seeing, well, damn, I'm going to resist, I'm going to piss myself off, and then I'm going to get more upset and maybe cause this snowball effect of maybe then I'm going to treat someone else shittily because they treated me shittily. Excuse my language, I don't even know if that's a word. I think it is, but...
It is now.
It is now, I said it.
I knew what you meant.
And we just got to not let that carry on, realize our own worth and our own selves and what's actually true to the nature of who we are. Accepting, bad things happen and not allowing that momentum to continue through our own acceptance instead of resisting it, getting upset, and continuing that cycle.
Right, and I feel that self-acceptance is a very necessary synonym when we're talking about self-love. Because if we just say self-love, love is such a lofty term, for better or worse. It's a very powerful term as well, but it's also very lofty, Oh, I love... Snickerdoodles. Do you love snicker?
Yes,
it's
an
overuse. Confession, yes.
Probably top 3 cookies.
But you know what I'm saying? It's a word that's thrown around a lot. So I feel, and even from the standpoint of it being a powerful thing, I mean, self-love, what does that really mean? Does that mean that you put yourself above all others? Is it ego love? What are we really talking about here? So I feel like self-acceptance is a really necessary corollary in the subject.
Self-acceptance is fueled by that self-love. I feel like it has to do with more that, for lack of better terms, real aspect of what love is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whereas in my mind, they are one and the same.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel like you brought up a really valid point with how love does get tossed around a lot, and people can even use love to validate feelings that aren't necessarily stemming from a wholesome, connected self. And a lot of our acceptance is accepting that too, but really every time we accept what is, we get closer to the core of ourselves and we can really feel what the love of the matter is, whether, without diving too deep into another tangent there, just loving ourselves for really what it is, not feeling like it's something that we're seeking through any other action or an experience that we're trying to make happen, just allowing what is and loving ourselves for what we already are and being grateful for all that's present here now.
Mm-hmm. Not inflating our image of ourselves necessarily, but just embracing what we are. Acceptance, I think we should break that down a little bit now too, because acceptance, from a Buddhist standpoint, that's like a very high ideal. But, to some people, acceptance, that might be seen as weak. You're not going to fight for what you believe in. You're just going to accept it, or whatever. It seems passive or something. So I think we should break that down. What do we really mean by acceptance here?
Well, through accepting it, we are avoiding those sloppy fight mechanisms, I feel like. Those knee-jerk, resistant reactions that make us fight what we might not agree with or what might even be opposing us. But through true acceptance, which I see as seeing what's in this moment, accepting it for what is, we're actually taking a step back, or more so into the center of ourselves, and then we can actually formulate a more logical, per se, a more heart-based, centered, a more realistic response and game plan and action into making a big change and stepping further into that evolution.
A more fruitful result rather than, like you're getting at, just that instinctive, oh, I don't like it, I'm going to oppose it. Yeah. And then you're basically what you might have been opposing.
You become
at
it
some point. Yeah.
to an extent. Or at least you're like the other side of the same coin, which, regardless of whether it's heads or tails, it's still a coin.
Exactly. It's still one side. It's not centered.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I feel that acceptance it's not just a passive, like, oh, well, I have no power here. I feel that it is true power, and it's putting the inside of true compassion into practice. If you see someone doing something that is hurting others, you could fight it and shame them and put them in their place, or you could realize that, oh, well, they've gone down their path and it's made them the way they are, and that compassion will allow you to accept their behavior. It might not be right,
but you can accept them and still show them love, and in a loving way. Not necessarily point out or poke or prod or say you're wrong, but see them for who they are and see how their life experiences, like you said, have made them who they are. And then there's actually a common understood level of real communication right there.
Because it's not that you don't do anything. If you accept it, then you accept your feelings that that's not right, and you walk that truth. If it's not right, if you're coming to it with compassion and true acceptance, then you're going to lovingly create solutions to the problem and help that other person along their path so that they can start to accept themselves and therefore hurt themselves and others less. That's what true love is recognizing the inherent unity amongst all living sentient things and beings.
Right, and
honoring that in our actions.
Mm-hmm. And communicating it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, a big bridge to a lot of these feelings and actions are our communications.
So true, because that can be another hang-up. That's something that I've personally experienced, is having these insights and, whether it be reading some Buddhist texts or, or having a innate experience within myself of coming to these insights. But then if I hold on to that love and just keep it to myself and don't share it with my family and my friends and the world at large, I'm not truly embodying the lesson,
Right. That it is infinite and ever-flowing as long as we don't hold on to it. It's letting go.
And it belongs to all of us, and it's not just a personal token of a spiritual merit badge, It's like, no, it's just life, you shine
These
it forward.
are points we can come to once we've accepted a lot of the negative or heavy things that can weigh us down so often. Because when we continually resist them on our day-to-day, they are there weighing us down, bogging us down. We're carrying them around. We haven't fully let them go. And how can we even experience that love within ourselves? Not necessarily to hold on to, but to share and experience if we're holding on to all that other crap.
Mm-hmm. To truly be in the flow of living in the moment. And I think that's actually a good opportunity for me to just call myself out. I'm tempted to beat myself up for not practicing what I preach, so to speak, when it comes to, I don't know if it's necessarily the example I just gave, but it could be anything, It's easy to talk about this type of thing, but in my day-to-day life, even with my family, it's hard, man, because I've spent years being an ego around them. And, it's hard to break that habit of being, whatever.
really who you are, not just who everyone sees you as or the identity you've formed around this particular vessel that you are. And it's super hard around family and longtime friends because they even continually affirm this egoic identity.
Exactly.
But, through the acceptance of that egoic identity and being like, okay, I accept this as part of who I am, we're not resisting it anymore. It even itself, like, fades away and curtains open to see a greater picture.
Right. And just to drive that example home, I could sit here and beat myself up about, I should have been better in that one situation, in that other situation. Years and years of situation.
Years and years. Oh my God.
That's the resisting, and if I just keep feeding that negativity, it's never going to change. But us having this conversation right now, well, now I can embody a different energy once I've shined the light on my own patterns and not judged myself for it, but had self-compassion and self-acceptance of recognizing, the compassion is recognizing why I am the way I am, why I've behaved the way I've behaved. The acceptance is...
And why you've chose to move forward into choosing and pursuing and actually becoming a being of knowledge and light and sharing it with people and diving into parts of yourselves that if you maybe hadn't realized, whoa, I'm not exactly who I want to be, or, if you haven't met those people that, maybe if they would have treated you better, if they didn't treat you shittily at some point.
Set a different example, though.
Yeah, they set a different kind of example, one that you have to accept and not resist because you realize that's not who you are, and allows you to become a little more full of light, per se.
Right. And I feel like that's the step after compassion and acceptance is what you're speaking of, and I don't really have a buzz term for it right now, but I don't know, it's that courage. It's the putting it into practice, the practicing what you speak of,
Actually, yeah, integrating these experiences into a fluid movement.
Into your life.
Literally.
Embodying it.
Which is what these takeaway moments that we've been intending and actually sharing are all about, taking in these opportunities, these experiences, and putting them into practice. And with today, it would be, can we actually sit down with ourselves for a minute and see some of these things in our lives that we know we might be fighting against or resisting, and really fully accept them so that we can come to a more calm and peaceful state within ourselves, love ourselves enough to do that, and then come up with a plan of action if we need to move beyond them, or if it's really something that we can let go of.
And it's one of those things that it's easy to talk about, but it's actual work, when we're facing our shadows, it's painful. And people, I don't want to open that and feel that pain from an ego standpoint of always trying to survive the moment and stay as comfortable and safe, so to speak, as possible. But it is worth it. And I guess my point here is that, I'm not asking people to just sit down and like, let me think about all my ego wounds, but have a conversation with a family member, or good friend, someone that you're close with, or if you're not ready for that yet, grab some paper and a pen and just put your thoughts out there. This isn't really something that meditation can necessarily heal in a single sitting. No. It can aid the process.
It can definitely help us come to these points and more so show us the roots of what these experiences or thought patterns or processes might be.
Or even the energy of actually accepting it from a witnessing standpoint.
Observing ourselves in action rather than having to always be in the action.
Rather than identifying with the actor, but witnessing the happening of our lives,
It's a beautiful way of putting it.
That's definitely where meditation can help. But, point being, whatever method you got to use, try it out. Try different things, journal a little bit, talk to some people, just see what flows, see what feels better.
Truly. And just to clarify, after all of this delicious fuel for the spirit that we're talking about, we're not saying, like, if you see a couple people fighting on the side of the road, I'm just like, if you could do something about it, accept what's going on, see it, don't resist it internally and be like, that was so bad, take an action. We're not saying be totally passive with our own thoughts and feelings and stuff. Like, we're saying accept them so we can take action, but don't just knee-jerk resist everything that's going on and fight against and feel like the whole world is against us, because when we resist like that, we are creating stagnancy and will more often than not seek out the comfort, like Sean was saying, and become too comfortable in what is, and kind of be stuck in those patterns and processes of the ego war and resisting all these things we might have done or whatever. It's just, what am I trying to say here? We just really need to allow it, accept it, and let it be, but take some action still.
But also play your part.
Yeah, play our part. We're not just, we want to make the change. We want to be a part of it, but we can't do anything when we're constantly fighting what we feel is being done to us before we realize that we create the majority of what we experience.
Well, it's interesting that you actually bring that point up, or that example even, because think about earlier today. We went to the park and, went for a little hike. And as we were leaving, we're walking up to my car and I hear some yelling coming from the car, parked a couple spots down. And I couldn't even tell if they were like actually angry or if they were just like riled up in some macho BS. I couldn't tell. And then we were driving past and I look over and there were like kids in the car.
Yeah.
And this guy's just mouthing off. And I mean, in that moment, I'm not going to pull over and be like, yo,
stop yelling at these kids.
Right. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what positivity I could possibly shine in the situation.
I didn't either. All I could do was accept it and move it on, because they're really, I saw him yelling at this kid, whatever, picked him up and whatever, was screaming at him, and I was, I wanted to say something, but at the same time, as I glanced him, he glanced me and just had this look in his eye like, he would totally punch me in the throat if I tried to tell him how to parent.
Right.
And
so you actually saw all that?
I saw him, yeah.
Okay.
He was not great to his child, which is terrible, but, we have to kind of accept these things. I can't beat myself up for not, like, ramming in there and trying to break it up. I felt intimidated by the experience myself, honestly.
Yeah.
And, in my heart, I have faith and know that, that kid's going to be strong and he'll be fine. It's not like he was being beaten or anything, but he was, like, getting yelled at and
in a public space.
In a public space. But I also don't want to be that person. I know how children can be. I know that sometimes you need to raise your voice. You don't necessarily ever need to really, like, spank them, lay a hand on them, but...
Yeah, we didn't see what happened before.
No, I didn't see what the kid did or anything, but it was exactly one of those experiences where, really all we can do is accept from a distance, because otherwise we're going to cause inner turmoil to ourselves.
And give them the
idea that people are opposing or resisting them. That'll just fuel their own fire.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier, is that knee-jerk reaction to things rather than taking a more Zen approach to, okay, let me breathe through this, like let it play out a little bit. If there is something that I can do to aid, to help a little bit here, I'll step up. But I mean, I'm not going to go up to some strangers and, like you said, either start yelling too or tell them how to parent or what happened here.
All right.
What did he do?
I diggity don't.
But I mean, all we really can do at this point in time is just give them the psychic gift of wishing them well.
Literally.
Like just having faith, like you said, that they're on their paths too. And, maybe from where we're at, we're tempted to condescend the situation with our peacefulness or something. I don't know. But that's not good either.
No. And I was aware of that. We both noticed it, and we were both like had energy towards it, but we both took a deep breath, realizing that that's not a situation to get intertwined with.
Right. And I mean, in another sense, accepting it for what it is, like blessing it as another divine manifestation of a daily, just life on earth here. Because here we are, we have an example to talk about that happened just today. I'm not saying that it happened just so that we can talk about it, but here we are. It just
so happens to really line up well with what we've decided to talk about and experience with each other.
Right. An opportunity to see someone struggling, but take the higher road and just send them some good energy rather than judging them.
Mm-hmm.
So, wish them well.
Truly. Not a lot we can do there, but exactly, love from a distance and accept for ourselves, because hurting our own inner peace is never worth it. I read something recently. It was saying that If there's a situation that you're limiting yourself to, a situation happening outside of yourself that you're limiting your emotions for and sacrificing your own inner peace just to make sure that external situation stays peaceful instead of getting into a potentially it might be a hairy conversation. But we also have to, this is when internal acceptance comes in. We have to accept how we're feeling on the inside. And, we can't sacrifice that peace within us. We really have to be strong with our feelings and emotions, not overly strong to where we're headbutting each other.
But strong in the sense that we're willing to endure what we feel.
Yeah, so that we're not sacrificing our inner peace. And that comes with the loving part of self-acceptance and accepting what is.
Right. Which, again, is obviously easier said than done. I mean, it's easy to get wrapped up in the energy of the moment. I mean, it's kind of like a river flowing, when we're... Like right now, we're sitting on the rocks by the river, or we're philosophizing, so to speak, on the situation.
Enjoying the stream, observing it.
Enjoying the view.
Accepting it for what it is.
And seeing how the gravity works. We're seeing, when there's not stuff in the way, it flows really free. Like, that's an ideal. But when we're in the river, when we're swimming or on a boat or whatever, we get caught up in that flow. And that's where the practice comes into
Boat
play.
comes by, there's waves, we're shaking all around, what the hell's going on?
We're trying to swim upstream because we think we saw something that we need to grab. I saw something shiny, I just had to get it.
It's nice to be able to sit on the side of these rocks at times and actually take a full look at ourselves, who we are, and this stream per se.
Yeah, and I guess my point is that the more often that we do that, then we have the reference point to put that into practice when we're actually in the river. Then we can remember, remember it's going to flow more free if I don't leave my BS in the river. And when that stuff does come up, I can steer a little bit because I'll see it coming, and that's the practice. That doesn't mean that we're not going to slip up. That doesn't mean that we're not going to hit obstacles. Of course we are. That's the game.
Yeah, and even when we do slip up and we do hit those obstacles, we have allowed ourselves these times
and pauses.
Yeah, experience from outside of it and realize, these falls happen, these slip-ups happen. Only way I'm going to get any stronger or grow any more is if I accept the fact that I fell and get up.
Right, exactly.
And, it does take help sometimes. I've had times where I fall so hard, I need a hand up. I need my family, my friends there. And,
of course.
We all have that. We really do.
Is there any times in particular that comes to mind of maybe some time that you were holding on to some self-judgment and then realized, I just need to accept the situation, let that tension dissipate, or... I don't know if anything was coming to mind for you.
100%. The first thing that came into mind, and I don't want to say the strongest experience, but one of the strongest experiences I've had of having to really accept and move beyond a level of growth I was stuck at was I was about 18 years old, just out of high school. I think I was at Miami University at the time, studying botany.
Oh, okay.
So I was in school at the time, and I was hanging out with my uncle on one day, and I just fell flat on my face. I literally...
You're just walking together.
I stood up, and we had been sitting for a while in his garage.
Okay.
And I think all the blood just flowed weird because we were sitting for so long. I think the way that I was sitting with my legs cut blood flow off or something. Head rush, and I just fell face first flat, smacked the ground, lost some teeth.
Oh my God.
And, opened a big hole in my lip. And luckily, my mom's friend was an endodontist. This lovely lady that she, one of her clients for a massage. And first thing I was like, my Uncle Joe was like, you got to call your mom.
Dang.
I was like, okay, here I go.
Yeah.
My mom fell on my face and you go to the hospital or something. For some blessing of the world, she had that endodontist on the table. And
wow.
She was like, go to our office right now. We'll take care of you. And they had a doctor next door that was friends with them that, sewed up my lip, didn't charge me anything. Got all my stitches in and
Talk about synchronicity.
Yeah, literally so synchronous. Like endodontist on the table, go to my office. We show up there. This doctor's like, "Oh my gosh, that's a mess. Let me sew you up." You know, just out of the kindness of his heart, not like sign you in or anything. You know, he wasn't like,
okay, what kind of insurance do you have?
You know, just truly like compassionate right there, and got me all fixed up, got all the teeth out of my gums, and or the extra teeth, not the good ones that were left.
To be so.
You know, it was only 2 that got messed up, really.
Okay.
And you know, they had to cut those down, shave them down and stuff, and they put me on Percocet, painkiller, and I didn't think much about it. You know, I wasn't really that into it. I was like, okay, doctor told me to take this many this time, so I was just doing it for the pain, whatever, because it did hurt like hell.
Right.
And I took this, and I was over at a friend's house like a few days after that incident. You know, I was like, and this lady there that was very beautiful and I was definitely attracted to was there as well, you know, so I had an alarm set on my phone. Oh, time to take my pill, my medicine, whatever. So I get it out, I take that, and she notices it and starts flirting with me and whatnot, and the next day is like, hey, you want to hang out? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. She's being very flirtatious and whatnot, and I'm like super naive, honestly, at the time.
You're also like 18 years old.
18 years old, and you know, I wasn't even like sexually active until like I was 18, which I know is a little different than most people.
These days, yeah.
These days, so. Apparently, because most people I talk to, they say like 13, 14. I'm like, wow, weird. Just because I really wasn't interested in a lot of that stuff for my whole life growing up. It was never anything that like drove me. I don't know why. It's just one of those things, but you know, I was starting to become like sexually active and stuff, so I was like really into this attention she was giving me.
It came online at this moment.
Yeah, like super online. I was like, whoa!
Hello, operator.
And you know, she comes over and I'm about to take my medicine, and she's like, you know, you want me to show you a way that can like, you know, will make you feel better and you'll need less. And she was like, here, watch this, and she breaks one up. And she's like, now snort it, you know, and I'm thinking, oh wow, is this how you do it? You know, she's like, I've done it before. And I'm like, so I trust her and I do it, and you know, like I'm like, what an idiot, of course. Like I should be aware, you know, smart enough of a person to know that like, oh, this doesn't feel right, but I did it anyway.
It didn't feel right.
I mean, it really didn't feel right at that moment, you know. And instead of accepting how I felt, I resisted it and was like, you know, I'm cool. I can do this with this girl.
It's kind of that peer pressure element at that point.
And she was like, of course, like, can I do some? And then after that, you know, pills went missing, and you know, they went quickly, and I had snorted it, and then, you know, 30 minutes later, I was like, oh, now it hurts really bad. Like, can I get some more? And I mean, I didn't ask her. I just did some more. Do you want some more? And that was a really steady slope, and we ran out in like a couple days. So she was like, okay, let's go back to your doctor. I'm sure they'll give you more if you just tell them you've been in a lot of pain. So they did, and of course, they were like really sweet. And she's like, and I swear she did most of this next little batch of them. Oh, wow. And, you know, I'm still super unaware because I'm following, like, lusty part of self, essentially, you know, like, being really, like,
and just
young
a new
and
friend.
dumb. Yeah, a new friend in general, but also, like, you know, she's providing a lot of sexual energy and activity towards me and for me. And I'm like, well, this is great. You know, all we got to do is get high, and I wasn't thinking much about it. I was like, well, this is a lot of fun, you know, going to school and having fun doing that. And she's like, well, we ran out of those. I'm like, what? Ran out how? You know, I don't think much about it. I don't want to get mad. I don't want to blow my cool or anything. And she's like, well, I know people we can get them from, but I don't have any money. You want to get us some? And, you know, this is like almost like her way of kind of like trapping me into this little cycle. And I kind of fell for it. I had this slight intuition, but I wasn't the most aware person at the time, obviously. But
weren't too familiar with energy vampires at that point.
I really wasn't, and that's really what was going on. But to make a long, extremely long story just a little bit shorter, flash forward, you know, 6 months down the road, I'm still with her. We're living in like the basement of a friend's house.
Okay.
Not paying rent, being terrible people, doing these drugs. And I realize at one point, like, I literally look up at her after we just like snorted some Percocet, you know. It's one of the first times I've really talked about this so openly. But I look at her and I literally see a red and black face appear on her face. Like, it is not human. It is totally dark. I'm like, what is this even? That is something that I would call the devil if I believed in something like that, you know?
I mean, that energy.
That energy was so heavy and dense and dark, and literally, like, she had like a Darth Maul face. And I'm like, I'm thinking I'm on some sort of psychedelic experience or something. I'm starting to see stuff, and I'm like, whoa, what the heck? And I stand up, and I look down at the base of these stairs, and a literal, like, whirlpool of energy appears with, like, a graded drain in the center. And my intuition spoke louder than it had ever spoken at that time to date. And it was literally in the most, like, perceivable way, like telling me that that's my life force energy, and that's what's happening to me if I continue to resist all of this pain and all this suffering and whatever bad things I'm feeling in my life. If I don't accept it and move on from it, and if I keep resisting and just, like, titty piddling, whittle boofing around, doing whatever, you know, I'm going to lose that essence of myself. And it was the most in-my-face, obvious, like, sign I'd ever experienced. And that very, like, within 24 hours, I was like, can't be with you. We're moving out of here. I don't know where you're going. I'm going home. And it was the most enlightening experience out of the most darkness, but it really came from me having to accept that I'm in darkness and I can't keep getting high to hide from this darkness that I've put myself in. I have to accept it and make it through it and overcome it. And what they say about the, like, light being born in the darkness, like, that was my biggest, even one of the closest to my first lessons in any path at all about actually wanting to make a difference and become the best person I can be, because I realized that I wasn't.
That's a powerful story, man. I appreciate you sharing that, for real. It was like you were seeing that darkness, you were seeing where that path ended up, and you recognized that you actually love yourself too much to let that happen.
Literally.
Over what? Just pleasure and avoidance of pain. And
truly, pain that I had inflicted upon myself, essentially, through allowing myself to be misguided and shown, like, a false love, like we were mentioning earlier. She really didn't love me. You know, not in that sense. You know, we've had some experiences. You know, we got deep with each other. I really care about this woman still to this day. Like, hope the best for her. I see that she's doing well now, I feel like. And, you know, I definitely can't blame that on her. But she had shown me a lot of darkness and walked me into it, myself willingly allowing, being like, oh, sure, cool. Like, but nice. And I was so, like, silly. But I had to accept all that I created and accept that, like, you know, it's not worth a little bit of lovemaking. Not even that it was lovemaking. Like, it's not worth any of my own inner peace. Back to that example earlier. It's not worth my inner peace to keep making the people outside of me happy to avoid conflict. Mm-hmm. So I had to accept that again and move on from it.
Right on, man. Well, that's beautiful. That was a breakthrough moment for you, for sure. Truly
a breakthrough moment in the weirdest of ways. Never expected to be shown anything in that state, you know. It was when I least expected it, when I had almost given up, basically. It was like that last little, you know what I mean? Drop the line and right on time.
Yup. It kind of just makes me think of the whole saying, like, darkest before the dawn. You know, it was that darkest moment where you're just like, no, I'm going to don the light of my awakening, if you will.
Truly.
You know, to take it into epic terms, but...
For the longest time, I thought it was like, you know, this God outside of myself that had shown me. But it was that moment that pushed me into so much realization and so much self-work that the more I would meditate and the more I would breathe, you know, I went vegan not long after that, and it helped me detox and get clean, and the most natural energy ever. I'm not currently vegan right now. But, you know, it's darkness before the dawn. Literally, it sparked me into the light of my life and actually moving forward and realizing my own self-worth.
That's exactly what I was about to say, yeah. And honoring it. Yeah, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
Of course. Are there any experiences that you would like to share that have kind of given you, like, you know, not necessarily the same, but, like, similar breakthroughs and just accepting experiences you've been in and allowing yourself to move beyond them?
You know, mine is, my path has been more of a gradual story. So, in short, I'll say that, you know, as a child, I was a very shy person, you know. I had some early childhood traumas that I won't go into details too much right now about, but I kind of grew up with a low self-esteem, and I definitely have held on to some like lack of self-worth throughout my growing up years, if you will. And one of the first times that I really broke through that was my first 2 experiences of magic mushrooms. And that's where it becomes hard to really talk about, because it was such a personal, interpersonal experience.
Were these substances, these magic mushrooms, psilocybin containing substances, actually show us parts of ourselves that a lot of times we close our eyes to?
Absolutely. And it's kind of a funny example, your story versus mine, because your story involved substances that were, these man-made painkillers that drove you down a dark road that you realized you needed to turn around.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on my story, some mushrooms that, grew from the earth.
The earth. Natural.
This substance is way older than humanity, and my experience was one of true healing. I mean, I still attribute my faith in reality, my faith in truth with the capital T, to that first magic mushroom experience. And then the second one, I feel, was more of a breakthrough in self-love. The second one, I was with 2 of my best friends. We were all going to school in Chicago at the time, and we went camping about maybe an hour or 2 north of the city. Just a little camp spot, not even like a crazy awesome forest or anything, just literally some campgrounds. I threw up some tents, I had some tea. They just threw theirs on a sandwich or whatever. And we just start walking barefoot, walked over to this one tree and just had a great experience over there. I sat down and just started to see the grass turn into like this spiraling like grasshopper type of consciousness.
Beautiful.
The grass became alive, and I was just this witness to it.
You really experienced the living attributes of the land that we inhabit, and how that life is no different from our own.
Right. And I remember the tree that we went up to was really thorny. Like it was, I don't know the name of the tree, but it was one of those that like literally had these
like the acacia?
Maybe, but they're like 3-inch thorns sticking out from the core of the tree. What
That's
do you call that?
wild. Yeah, they're just the trunk.
The trunk, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. And I was like, oh man, that looks a little scary. And I remember my friend Susan was like, oh no, it just needs a little love. I was like, fuck yeah. And then we sat down and I had this experience that I just told you about. And then we got up and we're just walking super mindfully back over to the tent, just feeling like gods, honestly, in the sense that I felt huge. I felt like we were giants walking amongst, like I said, the grass was just this community, this ecosystem, and we're just these huge beings just like
walking upon
it. Meandering
basically
around.
Floating at that point.
Yeah. And so then fast forward, I won't give the whole trip report here, but fast forward, we're sitting at a bench. I brought out some food. I was getting a little hungry at that point. Ate a little bit, and then started to feel this deep-seated dread almost, that pool of a bad trip of oh man, I need to feel some nasty emotions real quick. And I mentioned it in my buddy's, we call him Sunshine, his name's Bill. Sunshine, I was like, yeah man, I was feeling that a little bit earlier too, but I didn't want to mention it. And I was just like, man, I just got to I got to lay down, get on my back here for a minute. So I just laid down in the grass and had this really powerful experience of, I felt like I was other people in my life, other female figures, a few, but specifically I felt like my mom, and I felt like I had a glimpse into the experience of her giving birth to me, and just felt this flood of gratitude and true love for
being...
for this being that I know personally, but this divine being that allowed my divine being to incarnate and be.
Yeah.
And it was just this extremely powerful sense of love. And so fast forward, we are sitting back at the picnic table later on, And I just had to like let go, and I just started crying, and I was talking with my friends and just making really deep eye contact and everything, and it became very much about me in that moment. And I felt like a kid. I felt like I hadn't cried like that in years, man. I mean, it was like some primal shit.
Wow.
And I just felt that feeling of like
release.
It was release. And then it was like, as a kid, I would have just like dwelled in that, but as a semi-adult at the time, I don't know how old I was, maybe 21 or something.
What a milestone in your own personal growth.
Truly was. And the breakthrough moment was just like taking a deep breath, and it was like that, I can't think of the word to describe it, but almost like a quiver of like, that, where I was just like taking a deep breath through like, I was just like, oh my God, I'm okay. And that was when my self-love truly came online.
When you just accepted that regardless of all of these things, I am okay.
Yeah. I was just like, you know what? This is beautiful. I'm feeling emotion. I'm here. Like the wind is blowing, the leaves are blowing in the wind, like it was a beautiful moment. And I can never truly capture it with words, but that was my breakthrough moment right there.
Wow.
It was just, you know what? I'm worthy of love. Like, I'm okay.
Yes, you are. Yes, we all are.
It was just, I wasn't in my thoughts judging myself constantly or identifying with, this worthyless creature or whatever. Not that I've had like extreme,
we've
low
all experienced
self-worth or
depressing thoughts, low self-worth thoughts,
self-loathing, and all the ugly cousins that come along with that energy.
Anything that doesn't fully stem from love, accept it and let it go. Let it keep on rolling. We can pick up as much trash as we want floating in the river, but we can't be mad that that one can or piece of plastic we didn't grab.
Feel it.
But thank you so much for sharing that. That's a really beautiful breakthrough. And
yeah, it was.
It reminded me that after a lot of those experiences from the opiates and what I did there, it wasn't long after moving forward into what I consider my true self and moving beyond that I actually was able to have like an experience with psychedelic magic mushrooms per se at at my first festival with an amazing group of people.
Yeah. I can't imagine doing mushrooms at a festival for the first time.
No, it wasn't the first time I'd ever done them. It was
okay.
Just in the past, I had done them like as a young one, as a wee lad, just a little bit, because it was around and it was fun. But it wasn't anything like truly explorative. It was in this moment, like you were saying, there's feelings of allness and wholeness and love and accepting these parts of selves that we had hidden from.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing that, like you were saying, you have that support system there and those people that were able to just look you in your eyes and let you release and accepted you for you while you were still getting a grip on accepting yourself.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, because that's actually a really important factor in the story, is that I was there with loved ones, my best friends were right there just like bearing witness. It's not necessarily that everything they had to say was like pure gold clarity. Oh, thank you for that insight. I mean, we were talking, but it was just the fact that they were there and like willing to be present with me in such a vulnerable state. That support system, I knew that they were there for me. Loved them so much for allowing you to almost like hold space for you to grow. That's the phrase I was looking for.
Experience, yeah. And holding space is such a beautiful thing. And with all of this love and acceptance and self-acceptance, we got to remember to do the same thing for all of our friends. And they're not going to grow into the beautiful blossoming beings that they already are, but still working towards being if we don't love and accept them wholeheartedly for who they are right now. You don't think they know that they got a few things they can change, like just as much as we know that we do too.
Of course.
A little bit earlier, what we like to do before we start a lot of these casts is to do a little guided meditation with each other. Today I decided to take the wheel and share a meditation that a friend shared with me recently and that he learned from a book that he was reading that teaches a little bit on Reiki and energy channeling and whatnot. And we felt like it might be a good idea to add that meditation into here. So hope you all enjoy. It's a nice, short and sweet, pretty peaceful one. Definitely got us both into a really good space. And after talking about what we're talking about today, I feel like it'd be good to enjoy that and share that with whoever might be interested.
So with that said, we'll go ahead and play that for you now. And before we do, I just want to take a moment again to just kind of wrap up what we have talked about a little bit and throw out an action step for us.
Yeah, reiterate that. Really remember to sit here with ourselves and feel out these things and different scenarios that we're not really accepting, that we've been resisting, that are just causing more struggle, and actually take that movement to being okay with what's going on. Energetically, mentally, spiritually accepting what's going on and taking some time to figure out the plan.
Yeah.
Or just, like we were saying, accept it and let it be if it's that simple.
If it's that simple, sure, yeah. Just taking that time to self-reflect, and whether it's talking to a friend or journaling, and whether you have the experience and insight to put into walking a better path with whatever the situation may be. And you all know what it is. I mean, we all have an intuitive understanding and recollection, or acknowledgement, of what we are resisting. You know, if you take a moment to ask yourself, what am I resisting? Something's going to come up. Probably quite a few things, but, just to focus on one at a time.
Truly.
And to integrate it is the key. Take that time to reflect. And then, like Clay said, if it's as simple as just letting it go, let it go. If it's something that you need to put some action steps into, figure out how you can integrate that into your life.
Just wanted to thank all of you again for getting out of the loop and into it all. I'm Clayton.
And I'm Sean.
Till next time.
Peace.
Gonna invite you and myself to get in tune with our breath. Breathing in through the nose, filling up the lungs and belly. Exhaling, releasing any and all tension without trying too hard. Continuing our breath here, staying in tune. And as we get more in tune with our breath and start to feel more relaxed and comfortable, I'd like to invite ourselves to start to imagine our surroundings in whatever comfortable, peaceful place, whatever we just feel best. Imagining ourselves sitting in that comfortable and happy place. Could be a childhood home, our favorite park. Could be just simply floating through the cosmos. Staying in tune with the breath, breathing in deep, filling up the belly, and exhaling. Starting to imagine somebody sitting across from us. And this isn't just someone. This person loves us very much. Now we start to imagine whatever person that might be in our lives. A lover, our mother, father, whoever it might be, whether they're still with us or haven't been for a long time. Just imagining that person and starting to feel their love and the love that they have for you. And as we're breathing, begin to imagine what color that love that exudes from them for you might be. And just start to allow that color to surround them and yourself. As this begins to surround us and fill us up, the next step is to do our best to look at ourselves through the eyes and the love of that person. Unconditionally loving and accepting of our own growth and who we are. Beginning to feel that same beautiful love for ourselves, because we don't deserve any less for ourselves, for anyone else for that matter. But it all begins with seeing ourselves with that love. As we continue breathing, we begin to feel cradled and supported by this love. Realizing it's not just outside of us from the people who love us, but it really does start within. And the more we can look at ourselves with that unconditional love, the closer we're going to be to the truest versions that we can be. And begin or continue to act in accordance with that truth. Grounding in these feelings, continuing with our breath, and allowing our attention to come back to our bodies. Feeling our physical surround and maintaining this centeredness and love.